Students, now we will move forward in our chapter Biodiversity and Conservation. So, the study of history of the life and fossil records uncovered and information as the process of loss of species has been taking place time to time on a large scale even before the human appeared on the earth. And since the origin of life, or we can say since the 3 billion years ago on the life, the mass extinction have been taken place 5 times. Now the sixth extinction is under progress, but there is a difference of this situation as compared to previous five episodes. So the extinction of uh, species taking place now is about 100 to 1000 times faster than the previous episode, and if this rate will be continued, then the half of the species on earth will be wiped off within the 100 years, and we will see the loss of biodiversity results in the declining in plant population, lowering resistance to environment perturbations such as drought, increased variability in certain ecosystem processes also. So we will see here the reason of biodiversity losses. So the accelerated rate of species diversity is mainly due to human activities. All the four major causes we will discuss here, and the four causes are called or termed as evil quadrant theory, and we will see one by one here. The first is habitat loss or fragmentation. So this is the most important reason for the loss of biodiversity. It has affected tropical rainforest is the most. Now it has been reduced to 6% from 14% on the earth, and due to utilization of large area of Amazon rainforest for crop cultivation, including pollution, the various species are under threat condition now. Since mammals and birds require a large area of habitat, therefore this leads the population declining in mammals and birds especially. The second is overexploitation. By the increase in human population, the need of food and shelter has been increased. This also leads the extinction of several species. The third is alien species invasion. The introduction of a new species having more adaptation quality first generation time without having any predator causes a major threat to the local species. It means when we are introducing a new alien species, then if they may have, if they have the more adaptation, or if they don't have any predator, then their number will be increased and they will feed on their prey. So it will ultimately a major threat to the local species. For example, we have seen the how the Parthenium, the weed or water hyacinth proliferates, and they destroy the local species. The fourth is co-extinction, as we have already discussed this, that by any reason, if any species becomes extinct, along with that, several more species are also affected due to mutual interaction, and even leads to a loss of several more species also along with the single species. Now we'll see the use or importance of uh, biodiversity conservation, or we can say the use of biodiversity in our daily life. So importance of biodiversity has been grouped into three main categories: narrowing utilitarian, broadly utilitarian, and the third is ethical. The first is narrowly utilitarian, the human taking direct economic benefits from nature, for example, food, wood, fiber, construction material, industrial products, and products used in medicines, etc. And the second is broadly utilitarian. The broadly utilitarian argument for the conservation of biodiversity just because of the just because, as we know, that the oxygen supplement is mainly occurred by the plants. and 20% of the total oxygen on the Earth's atmosphere are released through photosynthesis by the rich biodiversity of the Amazon rainforest. The third is ethical argument. So by the ethics, we we feel the importance of this biodiversity, and we share a biodiversity with the millions of plants, animals, and microbe species. Every species has the intrinsic value to us, even though they may not have any economic value. Now we will see the conservation of biodiversity and different approaches we employ. So there are mainly two approaches for the conservation of biodiversity. So these two approaches are in situ and ex situ. So in situ means outside, in situ. So in situ means on site, and ex situ means off site or outside. So in case of in situ conservation, protection or conservation of the whole ecosystem or habitat is protected to protect even a single species. However, on the other hand, ex situ, in case of ex situ conservation, the conservation of an animal, plant, or any species is protected in a specialized habitat other than their natural habitat, and there is a special setting to for their proper care and proper breeding to proliferate their population. Ex situ has been applied to the threatened or endangered species. So biodiversity conservation is the protection and management of the biodiversity to obtain resources for sustainable development. And objectives are: the first, preserve biodiversity of the species; second, sustainable utilization of species and ecosystem; and the third is to maintain life supporting system and essential ecological processes. Now we'll see the details of in situ conservation. So the conservation of species in their natural habitat is called in situ conservation, and it has several advantages as it is cost effective and conventional uh, or convenient method. The second is broad range of species can grow simultaneously, and third, no need to adopt for the protection environment, protected environment. It means there is no need for that particular animal to adopt into the means the new environment, just because we have protected the organism in their natural habitat. So certain in situ conservation areas we can see here that we used to make the national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and biosphere reserves. So now we will see what are the national parks, what are these wildlife sanctuaries and biosphere reserves. So first we'll see what is the national park. So the small resources maintained by the government, uh, and these resources are in the form of some small area reserves, and the boundaries are well demarcated here, and the human activities, for example grazing, for forestry, habitat and cultivation is totally prohibited here. Means it is a totally prohibited area where we maintain a particular species in the form of reserve is called national park. And the second is wildlife sanctuaries. So the regions only the wild animals are found, and human activities such as timber harvesting, cultivation, etc., are allowed without any interfering conservation projects. This means if a person is trying to cultivate or harvest timber, then they will be allowed, but they should not interfere any conservation project or in any protected species. The third is biosphere reserve. So it is a multi-purpose place, and it is the protected areas where the wildlife and traditional lifestyle of a species are protected. Now we'll see the second type of conservation, ex situ conservation. So here, the breeding and maintenance of the endangered species in artificial ecosystem is being done. For example, zoos and reserves and botanical gardens gene banks, and nurseries, etc. So there is a less competition for the resources. So we can conserve the endangered or threatened species here, so that the sudden loss we cannot uh, means we don't want, if you we don't not want the sudden loss of the species, so we can protect it immediately by their breeding and by maintaining their uh, population in a particular controlled environment. And the advantages of this ex situ conservation is: breeding is allowed in an appropriate situation, species bred in captivity can reinforce in the wild, and the genetic technologies can also be used to preservation of endangered species. It means we can utilize the in vitro fertilization to produce their large scale production of species, and we can also, when the number of those that particular species increases, then we can introduce that species into their wild or we can say their natural habitat also. Thank you.